Hey, it's Jeremy from jeremy.net. And not too long ago, someone commented on my video about how to draw a comic book from start to finish, about wanting to know how writers find an artist to work with. And since I primarily write and draw my own comics, I thought, let me talk to a comic book writer I know who has self-published quite a few great comics and worked with some great collaborators and get his opinion. So I have on with me my friend Jamie Gambell. Jamie, say hi.
Hi, I'm Jamie Gambell.
Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about the comic books that you've worked on, your publishing experience?
I've been self-publishing books now for around 6 years under an imprint called the Monkey Pipe Studios. And I was just a way of having a collective name for everything to go under rather than splitting everything up into different sections, because I've put out 4 or 5 different series now. The main one that I'm doing is called The Hero Code, which is an ongoing sci-fi superhero story. As well as that, I've done something called Department O, The Black Wraith, Omnitarium, and there was a spin-off from the Hero Code called The Theatre of War, which I've also been working on. Those are the main ones that I've been doing.
Okay, and how did you meet your collaborators on each of the projects? Were there different stories for how you met for each one, or did you all kind of meet all of them in kind of similar ways?
It's different for each one. The very first book that I did, Omnitarium, the artist, a guy called J.C. Grand, I met through there was a publishing imprint called Ronin Studios, I think it was called. I don't know if it's around anymore. And it was kind of an umbrella name that people would self-publish under. So it's similar to what I was doing myself, in that it was like a collective name that people could be directed towards, but everyone was working on their own individual stuff. And they had a forum there, and I was actively chatting to people on the forum, and they would have open calls for artists. Writers would contact them, or writers would say that they were available to work on stuff. And it was a very quick, easy way of seeing samples of work and getting an idea of page rates and stuff like that. So it was kind of an all-in-one way of getting into touch with artists for work. And that's how I met JC, through that. And then we worked on that first book. After that, it was Jonathan Rector, who is a Canadian artist who I met through Art and Story, which was a podcast series, which you also...
Yes, very familiar with
Art and Story number 1.
Art and Story guys.
And he'd been interviewed on there a few times, and I'd seen work, I think, through links from there, or just generally from hearing him talk about work. I got in touch with him, and we talked a lot about doing a series, and he came on and did an issue of the Hero Code. And then it's kind of spread out from there. A few of the people I met through DeviantArt, which I don't know if that's as active anymore. It used to be very active maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it was a really good way of meeting artists, because it was basically just a gallery, and you could go there and see artwork, and people would share. And if you liked a certain artist, a lot of the stuff that they were sharing would open up other artists to you, and there was a way of getting in touch. There was a whole way of communicating with them privately through messaging there. And a bunch of the artists that I've worked with, I've met through there, where I would just directly ask them if they were available and what they were doing, and if they were interested in doing work, and would build a relationship through that. And it started off with me just reaching out and contacting a lot of artists, and then kind of shrinking down to a bunch of collaborators that are I have more of a relationship now, that I can, there's like a handful of people that if I have something that I want to get done, I know I can reach out to them and ask them what their availability is like. So it's kind of like throw a wide net and then narrow it down as you go process.
But with the people that you know, it's sort of like you've got a community now where you know the reliability of the quality of the work they're going to produce.
Yeah.
That the time frame is going to take them. So if they say, yes, I can do it, but it's going to take me X amount of time, or I'm going to need an extra month to do it, at least you know you have the communication open that you guys can discuss those things up front and ahead of time.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of what I would do, a lot of the times, was I would reach out and ask someone if they're available to do like a single piece, like a pin-up or just a quick piece of art. And that would... I'd learn a lot about their communication, about back and forth with them, about ideas, and get a feel of what they were like as an artist, and also an idea of their reliability through that process. So I wouldn't leap in and just, meet someone and say, okay, would you like to do a 8-issue book, and see how it went from there. I'd always try and build a relationship first, so that they, not only did they get to know that I was someone who paid on time and was open to their ideas being involved as well. It wasn't just a for-hire process. But also get an idea of their reliability and their pace and their timing. And if there was a delay, then, you could often gauge what the reasoning behind the delay was, and if you were comfortable with the relationship there. Because I pay the artists for the work that they do, and so it becomes it's not only a creative, collaborative relationship, it's a business relationship.
Yeah. Do you see a large difference between the idea of hiring an artist to illustrate a project versus somebody who, for instance, an artist and writer collaborating on something together that they both co-own from the beginning? Do you see a difference in terms of like the nature of that creative relationship where you're hiring someone? Basically, I guess what I want to ask is, where do you find the line between partner versus freelancer?
Yeah. I do. I think there is a big difference. I think there are some writers are very much of a mindset that it's their story, it's their creation, and they want someone to bring the creation to life. My approach has always been that I'm telling a story to an artist, and that artist is telling a story to other people. So I've been very open with them and told them that unless there's something very specific that I want, it's, my approach has always been I have an idea of the story, but they have a better design and aesthetic concept of how to tell the story. So I'm always open to their ideas, and I'm always open to a back and forth. I understand, though, that if you do have a very specific idea and you want to keep it like that, I think it's important that you're upfront about that you let, if you want to have a relationship with someone, then you have to have open communication with them. And if you want to get an idea across and it's a very specific idea, then you have to build that communication. You have to build that relationship of communication with them. And if they come back and say, I don't think that will work, I think it will work better like this, you have to know in yourself if you're going to have a problem with that. And just be clear. It's very simple to be clear. It's very easy for these things to kind of fall apart and get acrimonious just by the nature of you're creating something, and it's very personal, and it's very, it's something that's inside you, and you're trying to get it out, and it's very easy for you to not just lose sight of how to get it out, but also to forget that there's a lot of different ideas in play. And
you want it to mix like sugar and lemons and water and make lemonade. You don't want it to be like oil and water, where it's just like it's constantly conflict and things aren't just gelling into a unified thing. That's what you're saying. A good collaboration. It's alchemy.
Yeah,
it's taking different ingredients and forming them into something that is much greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, and I think if you have opened a dialogue with an artist and you've said to them, "This is my project. I would like you to draw it," then that's a different relationship than if you've contacted someone and said, I would like to collaborate with you, and we are creating this thing, and we are partners. And if you have said that that's the relationship, you have to be willing to have a back and forth with them. Like you say, you don't want it to be oil and water.
Now, it's interesting that most of the artists that you've worked with, at least if you described so far, have been met online in digital spaces. Have you met any artists that you've even if you haven't collaborated with them, but you've seriously considered collaborating with, that you've met at comic conventions, either you walking around and talking to creators, or also when you've exhibited your own work at booths and had artists come up and talk to you?
There have been a few where I've spoken to people about doing smaller pieces for me, and it's kind of I like the atmosphere at conventions for going around and meeting people and talking with people. I'm not the best at it. I'm not very good in social situations.
Sure.
But I do. There are a few people in real life that I have that, like a bunch of people like Jesse, for example, who we have relationships as friends with through meeting at Coffee and Comics or at conventions, and I've asked them if they're interested in doing something short, and it often works out quite well that way because it's a friend and you're talking. But for most of us, there's a kind of understanding that everyone has a limited amount of time to do their own thing, and so you've got to be careful that you're not, stomping in and encroaching on their what they're doing and what they're working on.
Yeah.
So it's I haven't met anyone at a show where we've gelled completely and said, this is an idea I'd love to work with you on, and we've created something big from it. But I have met a lot of artists where I've talked to them about possibly doing stuff. But because of the nature of how I am self-publishing, it's a very slow process, and I have like 2 or 3 books on the go at the moment. I'm trying to keep it focused down to one. So I'm trying to finish stuff off and trying to not open too much up. So I haven't, the last few shows I've been to, I haven't been actively looking at people. I will, every now and then I'll see an artist there that I like, but for the most part I like going to shows and either meeting people who I know online and meeting them in person, or I like to go there as a fan and a reader as well, and I like to find new stories. And so a lot of the people that I end up talking to tend to be writers, and when it's 2 writers in a room, that's
2 writers in a room, 3 conversations.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess it sounds like in meeting people online, a big part of it is just simply not being afraid to reach out and contact someone, just sending them a message, just introducing yourselves. Much like anybody else, it's like just not being shy or being forward enough to just say, hi, I like your work. Introducing them from there. This is why I'm writing you. Are you interested in this kind of stuff? Do you do collaborations? Do you do freelance? Do you illustrate with other people? And just starting there as a conversation, seeing where things go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not being afraid to have someone write back and say, I'm very busy at the moment, and just respecting if they say they're very busy, or saying I'm not taking on work at the moment, or I'm not interested. Because it is, you have to do a bit of work to reach out to people, and you have to build a relationship, and you have to know that it's not a bad thing to contact someone, and if you are being genuine and saying, I like your work, most people are quite happy to hear that. So.
Oh yeah, that's always good to hear a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, if you could say one definite thing to avoid, one mistake to avoid in terms of starting collaborations, going out meeting with people, or one this is a definite must positive. Give me one the negative, don't do, and then one do. Let's start with the negative, we'll end on positive.
I think I'm very wary of this is if you're communicating that you do like an artist, or you're trying to communicate an idea, I don't think artists like to be told that they draw like someone, or you want them to draw like someone else. There's kind of there's a backhanded compliment to say to someone, you draw just like this person. It's like a kind of that person is busy, so can I use you kind of mindset. And I try not to do that. The every now and then I'll say in a script it will have something like, this panel, look to this for reference, just because I'm trying to communicate an idea and I feel like I haven't found the words. But I don't think reaching out to an artist and telling them that you're looking for them to draw just like someone else it's not a good thing to do. From a positive point of view, I think if you do like an artist and you like what they're doing, then let them know and be ready to let them play around with ideas, because you'll get surprised with something. You'll see them with eyes as the eyes of a reader rather than an editor or a writer, and it's kind of nice every now and then to get that art in your inbox and be surprised with something that they've done, something they've brought to the story. So don't be too precious and hold on to stuff. Let them play around with ideas, and the other tied to that, I would say, if you do get artwork in your inbox, don't reply straight away. Let it look at it overnight and think about what it is. Enjoy it as a piece of art, and then enjoy it as a writer, and then enjoy it as an editor, and then talk about if you think anything needs to change. But just take a moment to appreciate the work that they've done, and sit back and just let it be a piece of art for a while.
Because they may interpret something in a way that you really didn't envision. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people interpret things in a way you didn't envision, and you're like immediately blown away. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you see and you're just like, that just isn't what I saw.
Yeah.
But if you think about it for a little while, you may after a day or two of reflection be like, yeah, I didn't see it this way. Mm-hmm. But this works. Yeah. It works in a different way than I expected, and it may even generate some more ideas for you in terms of how it plays out in the rest of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
All
be
right.
ready for ideas wherever they come.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of great information. Hopefully the people that are watching my channel will find use in this. Where can they find you online if they want to find out more about the Hero Code and your other projects?
I have a website, monkeypipestudios.com. Monkeypipe Studios, all one word. And we have some of the books are up there. The first issue of Hero Code is up there, and there's just some imagery up there. And everything I've put out so far is up on Comixology. If you read books digitally, you can find them there.
Okay. And you also have a Kickstarter running right now, is that correct?
I do, yes. It's 3 days from completion, but it's to get a decent print run of the Hero Code Volume 1, which is the first 5 issues. So that once that's completed, there'll be physical copies, which I will put up details on the website. If you missed the Kickstarter or don't want to back it on the Kickstarter and it's successful, then you should be able to find a way of buying it through the website.
All right. That's it for now. You can check out my website, jeremy.net. That's GERIMI.net. That's where you can buy my comic books and artwork. You can also sign up for my free weekly newsletter to get a behind-the-scenes look at my creative process, updates on new comic books and artwork releases, and upcoming comic book convention appearances. Okay, go be creative.